Here's some psychology you didn't ask for. The part of your brain that handles political outrage is the same part of your brain that reacts to actual physical threats. Which means every time you read a headline and yell, "What in the hell is wrong with people?" your nervous system actually thinks you're being chased by a bear that voted for the other party. Welcome to the Shift Show. Welcome, all of you beautiful partisan disasters, to the Shift Show, the only place where red and blue come together to make one big anxious purple. I'm your host, Adam Blevins, and I approve this message because nobody else would. And I've got a special one lined up for you today. Today, we're going to talk about the only thing that has been flooding your feed for the last 9 months. That's right. Today we're going to talk about politics. And don't click away. I know that we're all tired of the political climate that we've been dealing with. But from a mental health standpoint, this is important. And we need to talk about this stuff. Most importantly, I want to get it the hell out of the way because there have been some folks that have been asking about a political episode. So let's talk about it. And listen, before we dive in, let me say this very, very clearly. This is not going to be a political podcast. Okay, this episode will be, but I'm not here on the show to argue red versus blue, left versus right, elephant versus donkey, whatever. But we can't kid ourselves. Politics is the loudest neighbor in the apartment building right now, stomping around, yelling, making a fool out of itself. It's in the air, it's in all of our conversations, it's in our Facebook feeds, our churches, our Little League bleachers, even in the damn group chat that used to be only about fantasy football. So today, we're going to do something dangerous. We're going to talk about it. And let me clarify something else real quick. I don't care if you voted red, if you voted blue, or if you voted purple, or if you wrote in Batman, because why not at this point? What I do care about is how politics has hijacked our nervous systems and turned us into whatever the hell we are right now. Because you notice how nobody can just like a politician anymore? No, you can't just support someone's policies anymore. You have to become a disciple to that person. It's like voting has become the easiest way to pick which cult you like better, which one you'd rather join. You can't just say, yeah, I'm a fan of their ideas. No, you got to buy the merchandise. You got to get the bumper stickers. You got to start yelling at strangers in Walmart like you're on your political party's payroll. And it's not just at the rallies. It's not just in the speeches. It's the way politics have invaded our homes. Politics has sat down at the dinner table, stole the remote, and tracked donkey and elephant shit all over the beautiful red, white, and blue carpet in the living room. Families don't just split over money and in-laws anymore. They split because somebody said the wrong thing about a president 3 elections ago. Thanksgiving used to be about turkey, stuffing, memories, football, and awkward comments about your cousin's haircut. Now it's trench warfare every time you sit down at the table. Your mom's pouring the gravy while your uncle is reenacting the January 6th hearings. Gatherings have become debate stages, and we all think that we're the rational ones, every one of us. Because liberals, they look at conservatives like they're cavemen, carving out AR-15s out of dinosaur bones. And conservatives look at liberals like they're rainbow-haired communists, trying to tattoo their pronouns onto your heart. And the hilarious thing about this whole political climate is that both sides are wrong, okay? And both sides are right, which means everybody's full of crap. Everyone wants the same things, but refuse to acknowledge the other side's ideas that may lead to similar outcomes. Let me show you what I mean. See, some of y'all are mad already, and I haven't even said anything yet. Liberals, you will chain yourselves to a tree to save the rainforest. Then you'll fly back to that rainforest on 6 connecting flights, each one of them spewing more carbon than a Marlboro convention. You'll scream, abolish billionaires, while posting your TikTok reel on an iPhone 15 Pro Max that costs more than an entire town in some countries. You'll boycott Walmart because of unfair labor, then go home and order 47 things off of Amazon at 2 o'clock in the morning. You'll talk about dismantling capitalism, but your Etsy shop that sells crocheted hats for kitty cats has rush holiday shipping options. You'll march for equality and then trample 4 people at a Trader Joe's to get to the last oat milk. I know we're having fun, but seriously. You will scream, defund the police, but call 911 because your DoorDash guy rang the doorbell instead of texting you first. Conservatives, don't get lazy. I got plenty for you too. You'll scream for small government at the top of your lungs until your HOA won't let you fly that 6-foot flag in your front yard. Then suddenly, you want the Marine Corps to parachute in and do the Lord's work to save your day. You'll scream, back the blue, until the blue tells you to put on your seatbelt. Well, that's tyranny. You'll rage against cancel culture, and in the same breath, you'll boycott Starbucks because the barista's rainbow-colored hair stared at your eyes too long. You'll scream, no handouts for anyone, but you cashed your stimulus check before the ink dried. You'll blast freedom all over Facebook while demanding that government regulate what your kids can read, what teachers can teach, and who can use what bathroom. You'll scream, don't tread on me, while quite literally treading on everybody else's rights with cowboy boots and a Jesus is my co-pilot bumper sticker. Back to you, liberals. You'll tweet eat the rich while eating avocado toast that costs $18. Conservatives, you'll cry about gas prices while revving up a lifted F-250 that gets 7 miles to the gallon. Liberals, you'll scream, love wins, always, but you'll block your uncle because he voted wrong. Conservatives are all about family values, but they cut their cousin out of the will for driving a Prius. You see what I mean? Nobody's consistent. Not one damn side. If hypocrisy was an Olympic sport, America would sweep gold, silver, and bronze every single time, and then argue over which anthem gets played and whether we stand or kneel for that anthem. You see what I mean? And then there's social media. Sweet Jesus in a sundress. There's social media. If you want to see the truth about people, you want a good hard look at what we've become, go to the comment sections. People writing 47-paragraph essays under a meme where SpongeBob is wearing a MAGA hat. Your cousin hasn't spoken to your aunt in 3 years because she once shared a picture of Obama with angel wings. And back to debate. Do we really even debate anymore? It seems like we just yell keywords like Alexa on drugs. Socialism, fascism, freedom, fake news, America first. Nobody defines the words. They just throw them out like verbal dodgeballs, hoping they hit someone that they disagree with directly in the face. And the outrage is addictive, ain't it? As a resident in counseling, I see the mental fallout of politics in this country every single day. People come in with anxiety, depression, panic attacks, and the root cause, a lot of it right now has to do with politics. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this episode, to shine a light on the frickin' tribalism, the division, the us versus them that's baked into every one of our conversations. Moms disowning sons, brothers blocking sisters, neighbors who used to barbecue together every weekend now just glare at each other like Hatfields and McCoys because 2 old white guys in suits screamed at each other on TV about anything and everything except for what actually frickin' matters to the people in this country. Do you know what that does to your nervous system? It fries it. That's constant threat detection in your brain. It's constant fight or flight. You're walking around like a sparking wire, and your body It doesn't know the difference between a predator in the bushes and your coworker who once made a comment about immigration that you disagreed with. Stress hormones don't care if the danger is real or not. They just dump cortisol straight into your bloodstream like tequila at a frat party. And then we wonder why we're all exhausted, irritable, anxious, can't sleep, can't focus, and why our family group chat sounds like someone vomited CNN all over Fox News' desk. Now, of course, there's a lot to laugh about when it comes to politics, and honestly, you have to from time to time just to keep your sanity. But politics isn't just breaking our country right now. It's breaking us mentally, emotionally, relationally. We're stressed, we're divided, and we're forgetting that underneath all the bumper stickers, we're all just people trying to pay bills, love our families, and trying to afford being alive. Think about how much politics consumes us. You wake up in the morning, it's the first thing you see on Facebook. You turn on the TV while the kids are eating breakfast, politics. Turn on the radio in the car on the way to work, politics. Walk past Barbara's cubicle, politics. What's the first thing on your work computer when you get to your desk? Politics. What's discussed at the lunch table? Politics. What's the first thing your spouse wants to talk about when you get home? Politics. And what's waiting in the back of your mind like frickin' paparazzi whenever you lay down to go to sleep at night? A warm, steaming pile of everything is on fire, politics. And we always hear the argument of, well, let's just bring all the ideas to the table. Let's all learn how to get along. Well, that's a beautiful sentiment. But most of the time, that's coming from a place of, come sit at my table and let's talk until you understand that my way is the right way. Instead of, let's meet on neutral ground and talk about how your ideas and how my ideas could potentially benefit one another. And here's a wild and crazy concept. Maybe we'll learn something. Maybe we'll learn that the way of life our great-grandmother's uncle's godfather's fifth removed nephew lived doesn't quite equate to the realities of today. Maybe we stop shaving hours, days, weeks, and years off of our lives trying to convince other people that we know everything, and instead spend that time and energy seeking knowledge that we didn't have before so that we can inform both sides on what the best political decisions are that best suit everybody, and not just a select few who were born into the right ideology. And here's another human phenomenon that I just cannot understand why we do this, while also acknowledging that I've been guilty of the very same bullcrap that I'm about to call out. You know how somebody will post their thoughts to social media, right? Why is it that so many of us are incapable of seeing a post that disagrees with our own views, our own worldview, and just ignore it? Why is it that we cannot stand the thought of seeing opinions that are different from ours and just scroll past? There are people who spend hours of their day arguing on social media, and this presents a question. Why? To those of you who do that, whose mind are you changing right now? How many authors of those posts that you've responded to write back to you and thank you for your political soul-saving enlightenment? How many people do you vomit your rage into online, and all of a sudden they now subscribe to the same exact worldview that you do? Here's what's actually happening. You are screaming into the endlessness of the internet void. And for what? Higher blood pressure? Making more enemies? In fact, I'm willing to bet that some of you are watching this right now because of the political caption, just salivating, waiting to dive into the comment section and just do your worst. I'm sure your fingertips are aching to express themselves. And I know what some of you are thinking. Well, if they're going to post it, man, they're putting it out there. They're looking for an argument. Well, maybe they are. Or maybe some of them are just sharing what's on their mind, hoping to find a little support from their friends on Facebook or whatever app they're using. But in our culture, we've made it cool to scream at people on the internet. And in most cases, y'all ain't saying that shit to somebody's face. But of course, you'll also have the I'll say it to anyone, anywhere, at any time people. And I'm sure you would, you big, strong example of toughness and superiority. I'm sure you're also very well endowed. I'm sure you can beat a grizzly bear in a fist fight and have all the characteristics of the demigod that you have convinced yourself that you are. Nobody cares, pumpkin. Okay? Again, a lot of us talk about getting everyone to the table. But the second someone disagrees with us, we don't even want them in the same damn restaurant, much less at the same table. And look, it's hard. It is hard to consider anything that disagrees with what you believe, because you believe what you believe for a reason. But we have to remember there are 8.5 billion people on this planet, which translates to 8.5 billion different ideas as to what is morally right versus what is morally wrong, what values matter, where life started, how life ends, and everything in between. And if you think you're that one, the one, that everyone should follow because you know the way, that everyone and everything around you should change to fit your narrative, your convenience, your agenda, and your way of life, well, that, my dear friends, is delusion. Just remember, your eyes don't see what the other 17 billion eyes see. Your ears don't hear what the other 17 billion do. Your brain has learned different things than the other 8.5 billion brains out there. But you can learn from them, and they can learn from you in turn. I'm sure there are a lot of you saying, man, I'm not like that. I know that I don't have all the answers, but I do understand common sense. And these other people over here, well, they just don't have any. Really? Well, how do you know? Because they think you're just as crazy as you think they are. For example, pro-lifers think pro-choicers are wrong and evil. Pro-choicers think the same about pro-lifers. Pro-open borders think that pro-kick everybody out of the country, every one of them are racist. Pro-kick everyone out thinks that pro-open borders are letting rapists into the country every 8 seconds. Pro-Trumpers think every anti-Trumper is the Antichrist. And every anti-Trumper thinks that every pro-Trumper fell out of the Looney Tune tree and hit every single branch on the way down. And I don't know how to tell you this in a way that will make you believe it, but here goes. We're all the damn same. Do you understand? There are things about us that are the same. For example, we all share 99.9% DNA. You can be as uncomfortable with that information as you want, but that is a fact. We all breathe the same air. We all consume the same water molecules. We all struggle with things that we wouldn't tell a soul. We all have dreams of success and happiness. We all bury people that we love. We all want people in our corner. We all want to feel loved and supported and appreciated. We all make awkward jokes. We all doubt ourselves. We all blow our nose. We all wash our nasty asses in the shower and poop. No matter how rich, famous, popular, accepted, or pretty that you are, poop falls out of our butts. It's disgusting, right? Oh, I'm sorry. Is that uncomfortable? Why is that uncomfortable? But hating other human beings that we don't know anything about, that feels like home. That's interesting, isn't it? Thinking that someone is an idiot because they didn't vote like you. Well, that's become status quo. But God forbid we all discover that everyone cries at funerals. You want to know what I think? Again, clearly you do because you're still here. Here's what I think. I think we've missed the mark. I think that the educational system, our parents, their parents, the media, the government, everyone has failed. We failed to teach people. We failed to prepare people for a richly diverse world with endless possibilities. Instead, we train people to only see what's in front of their face and to run from any uncomfortable questions. We've created ideologies that makes life's difficult questions easier to stomach. And not that that's always a bad thing, But we've got to leave room for other people. We've got to leave room for other ideas. Because again, I don't care if you're a MAGA hat wearing NRA card holder with a truck that's lifted so high that Jesus himself has to change the oil. Nor do I care if you're a purple-haired Subaru-endorsed lesbian with Harris 2024 tattooed on your forehead. You both believe what you believe for the exact same frickin' reasons. Whether you were raised by two parents or your aunt's hairdresser, you had adults in your life that you observed from the moment you started breathing. You learned things from those people. You learned things from their conversations because their conversations planted seeds in your head. And all of us grew up in some kind of culture, right? We learned from that culture. And things that conflict with what the ideas that culture enforced, well, they feel strange to us, don't they? Some of us stayed in school. Others didn't. Some of us are born with a silver spoon in our mouth and a golden horseshoe wedged directly in our ass, while others had to beg for a chance to eat out of the dumpster. A white person who grew up in the suburbs is not going to see life the same way as a black guy who grew up in the ghetto. You understand? Someone who has 4 college degrees is not going to see life the same way as someone who dropped out of 9th grade. Somebody who cleans toilets for a living isn't going to see life through the same lens as the person who owns the company that sells the toilets. Your politics comes from a combination of what you heard your parents say, of what stuck with you in school, of what makes your religion feel justified in comparison to all the other religions, what experiences you've had, the type of environment that you're in. And guess what? None of us learned all the same things from all of those things. We all learned different things. So how in the hell can any of us claim that our personal politics should be the guiding light for all of mankind? And how is it that as intelligent as many of us are, we can't seem to collectively understand? We're not trying to save the world with our politics. Okay, we're not. We're trying to create an environment where our eyes see what they want to see. Our ears hear what they want to hear. And nothing makes us uncomfortable. Well, that's disgustingly human behavior, and many people are suffering a lot right now because of that mindset. And you know what? It's time to unlearn that shit. Every one of us are entitled to have our opinions, and we have the human right to express those opinions. But opinions are often like the stuff I used to step in all the time in my neighbor's field. Bullshit. Just because you have an opinion that is eager to leap off of your tongue and into the unsuspecting ears of all the people you think that you're smarter than, that doesn't make them facts. Okay? We have to stop treating being wrong as a bad thing. I used to hate being wrong. Hell, still do sometimes. But I'm learning to love being wrong. That sounds crazy, doesn't it? Because every time that I'm wrong about something, there's a new opportunity to learn something I didn't know a few seconds ago. Every time I'm wrong, that's proof that my mind is still sharp enough to recognize that something I thought was irrefutable evidence is actually something entirely different and something that's begging to be explored. For example, and again, I don't care how uncomfortable this makes you. I don't care if your Bible jumps off the table and starts shouting out loud. Just hear me out. I grew up with several Christian influences around me in my life. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because most of those people are still very important roots in my life. But some of the influences I had taught me how to hate. Specifically, they taught me how to hate gay people. I'm not going to church it up and tell you that way back then I didn't hate them, okay? I'm not going to say, oh, I just didn't believe in it, okay? I don't mince words. I grew up genuinely believing that gay people were evil and that I should do everything in my power to stay clear of their devil-coded ideologies and their heaven-avoiding behaviors. Until one day I sat in a church sermon. And listen, I've been a state trooper. I was in the Charlottesville riots. I've worked in a jail. I have seen some of the worst of society. And I've never seen hate quite like that. I've never heard hate quite like that. I've never heard a group of supposedly good people completely devalue and strip away any dignity from an entire population of human beings like that. I'd never seen such applause behind words that were far more evil than the topic in question. And I realized in that moment that I had been wrong because I had judged people without ever having a conversation with them. I knew everything about them without knowing anything about them. I was wrong for how I treated them and how I perceived them. Decades later, some of my closest friends, people I would trust with my son's life, who are gayer than a rainbow at an Elton John concert, had I kept that same mindset, I never would have created the openness in my mind to explore if I had space in my heart for these people who I had disagreed with for so long. Real, tangible, valuable relationships that will outlive any irrational belief that I had about their kind or those people before I met them. And you know what? If loving those people, if enjoying their agenda-free support and unconditional friendship lands me a spot in hell, if the late-night conversations that probably saved our lives and definitely our sanity a few times, if that condemns my soul, if breathing the same air as an unapologetically kind person throughout my life keeps me from walking golden streets, so be it. I'll roll the dice and find out. Because I've learned that me, Adam Blevins, would much rather be kind to people, try to understand them, and love them without feeling like I have to change them first. I would rather do that than to be anything else in the name of anything else. I will sleep just warm and cozy in my bed of fire knowing that I gave people a chance when I could have easily just looked the other way. Knowing that the parts of their life that ain't my business, ain't my business. But mostly, it's knowing that when everything and everyone around me were working overtime, trying to get me to hate someone, that I instead chose not to. It's knowing that my beliefs, no matter how real or irrational they may be, does not outvalue the quality of life of the person who is in front of me. It's knowing that both of our lives will be better when we learn to look past what the world keeps trying to restrict our view of. It is okay to believe differently. Okay? We can all learn from different. But hate has never taught anyone anything beyond how to do it better. It's about time that we make love more contagious than hate. It's about time we stop dressing up hate like it's at a drunken Halloween party. We need to call it out. We need to call it what it is. Okay? If you immediately try to justify hate in your mind, ask yourself why that justification is needed. Because shouldn't it just automatically feel right? Pay attention to your body and those silent little whispers. They're always trying to teach us something. Be willing to learn, man. As a matter of fact, I saw a podcast clip on, I think it was on TikTok the other day. And the host asked the guest on the show why they hated liberals so much. And their answer highlights a psychological phenomenon. He said he hates them because he has to live among them, that he has to share oxygen with these people. And he continued on saying how disconnected from reality that those people have become and the danger that they are to the rest of society. I find this to be incredibly interesting. Let's unpack it. That statement, I hate them because I have to live among them. That sounds a bit extreme, doesn't it? But if you strip the politics away, I think what he's really saying is, I feel unsafe because I can't control my environment. That's not a political problem. That's a nervous system problem. What looks like hate on the surface is usually just fear, but with a marketing team. And fear doesn't care what color the sign is in your yard. You see, the human brain was built for tribes, okay? Not timelines. Our ancestors weren't scrolling through Facebook opinions. They were scanning the landscape for animals that wanted to kill them. The ability to instantly judge who's safe and who's not is what kept our ancestors alive. Fast forward a few thousand years, and now that same exact threat detection system is getting triggered by Karen's Facebook post about immigration. Sorry, Karens. Your amygdala doesn't know the difference, that little almond-shaped panic button in your brain, it doesn't know the difference between a saber-toothed tiger and a liberal arts major. It just knows different equals danger. So when someone says, I hate them because I have to live among them, what they're really admitting to, without even realizing it, is that difference makes them feel unsafe. The problem is our modern world runs on difference. Different cultures, different values, different ideas. Yes, different pronouns, playlists, food choices, even love languages. If you can't live among difference, you can't live among people. That's the quiet little tragedy underneath all of this division that we're all experiencing. People are terrified of complexity. We crave the clean, easy, predictable lines of a world that no longer exists. Certainty feels like safety, even when it's wrong. And your brain will always choose wrong but certain over right but unknown every single time. So instead of sitting with any kind of discomfort, instead we outsource it. We turn fear into ideology. It's not that I'm scared. No, I'm not scared. I'm not scared of nothing. They're evil. There's people over there, they're evil. It's much easier to dehumanize someone else than to examine one's self. Because the moment you acknowledge that fear, you have to face the fragility underneath it. You have to admit that your worldview might not be the universal truth that you thought it was. And for most people, that's more terrifying than any political opponent. So let's talk about the societal impact of all this for a second. We live in a culture that monetizes outrage. Division is no longer a side effect of all this. It's the business model. Politicians, news outlets, influencers, hell, even some nonprofits. Everybody is selling fear now. They're coming for your jobs. They're corrupting your children. They are destroying your country. It's dopamine for the primitive brain. Every headline is a digital saber-toothed tiger leaping out of the bushes. And you're just supposed to stay afraid all the time. That's why they keep throwing this stuff at you, because fear keeps you scrolling. Fear keeps you on the app. Fear keeps you watching. Fear keeps you donating, because you think that everything you do is saving the world. It's saving your country. It's saving our culture. It's saving our history. It's saving whatever it is that you think you're saving. Fear keeps you praying that the other side will disappear. Meanwhile, nuance, that doesn't sell. Compassion, that doesn't trend all that often. Nobody clicks on the link that says, local man realizes that his opponent actually has a valid point. But we do click on, well, liberals ruin Christmas again, or conservatives want to outlaw happiness. It's emotional junk food. High sugar, zero nutrition. And just like real junk food, it gives you that quick little hit of satisfaction, followed by a slow, silent decay of your mental health. Internally, this all starts with identity. Okay, here's what I mean. When you tie your sense of self to your beliefs, okay, your self-worth to your beliefs, disagreement feels like annihilation. You're not just rejecting my argument. You're rejecting me, the person. That's why debates feel like war zones now. We've stopped debating ideas and we've started defending egos. Is any of this making sense yet? It's not, I think this policy is wrong. It's, you're trying to erase me. And once identity is on the table, reason leaves the damn room. That's what makes this statement so chilling. I hate them because I have to live among them. It's not just about hating an opposing view. It's about hating proximity. It's the refusal to share a world with people who make you feel uncomfortable. And once you dehumanize a group of people long enough, anything in here becomes justified. History proves it. Genocide never starts with guns, okay? It starts with language. It starts with words like them. We tracking yet? Psychologically, that hatred functions like armor. If I convince myself that they are the problem, I never have to confront my own. If I stay angry, I never have to feel afraid. Hate is a cheap form of control. It gives the illusion of strength while quietly corroding the inside of the person who's holding on to it so tightly. The body keeps that score too, which, by the way, that is a great book if you haven't read it. It's called The Body Keeps the Score by Dr. Bessel van der Kolk for all you trauma nerds like me out there. It's a tough read, though. Where was I? But anyways, chronic anger and stress jack up your cortisol levels, which is a stress hormone. It tightens your blood vessels, and it wrecks your freaking immune system. So while you're out here owning all the liberal snowflakes or crushing the conservative regime, you're causing actual damage to your actual body. Just by the way. And most people don't even believe half of the hate that they're repeating. They just don't want to lose their tribe. Social belonging is the strongest psychological reward we have. That same brain circuit that lights up from cocaine also lights up when we feel socially validated. Yes, science. That's why you see people yelling bullcrap on the internet they would never say to a human face. They are performing for their digital tribe, desperate for likes, desperate for shares, and proof that they belong to somebody, belong to a group of people. Sometimes one's choice in ideology is very telling about their loneliness. So when that guy said he hates liberals because he has to live among them, I don't want to put thoughts in somebody's head, but I think what he really meant was, I don't know how to belong without hating somebody else. That's a sad reality about a lot of folks right now. Because hate bonds, there's still bonds. It's still connection in a way. They give you a sense of purpose, something to fight against, something to fight for, a team to cheer for. It's emotional scaffolding, but it's made out of barbed wire. It holds you up, but it hurts like a bitch to lean on. And again, as a resident in counseling, I see this all the time. People who have lost their sense of self cling to a group identity because it tells them who they are. I'm conservative. I'm liberal. I'm anti-this. I'm pro-that. It's the I'm. The I'm, it fills the emptiness until one day the tribe changes or betrays you or just moves on. And now you're just sitting here left alone with the silence of your own unprocessed grief. And that sucks because now there's nothing left to hide behind. That's why I always try to tell people, don't confuse belonging with alignment. Okay? You can belong to a group of people without letting it replace your moral compass. You can hold beliefs without letting them hold you hostage. And you can disagree with someone without feeling like you have to destroy them. The goal isn't to erase difference. It's to build a tolerance strong enough to handle difference. But that requires emotional regulation, a skill that we've collectively forgotten as human beings. Most adults can't even tolerate sitting in their own silence for 10 seconds without reaching for a screen somewhere. I am one of those people. You think we can tolerate opposing viewpoints? Please. The average American nervous system is so fried from constant notifications and caffeine that a mild disagreement feels like an existential threat. That's why mindfulness, therapy, and even just breathing feel like radical choices now. Because peace doesn't give you an adrenaline rush, but rage does. So what do we do about it? How do we start to change all this division, right? You start small. You can't fix Congress, okay? But you can fix the conversations at your dinner table, okay? You can fix the tone of your group chats. You can decide that not every battle deserves your blood pressure. You can remind yourself that curiosity is not weakness. It's emotional intelligence in motion. Next time you feel that heat rise in your chest when someone disagrees with you, don't fight it. Don't fight them. Study it. Ask it questions. That's your body whispering, hey, something in me feels threatened right now. Ask yourself why. Maybe it's because you've tied your worth to being right all the time. Maybe it's because you've confused control with safety. Maybe it's because your nervous system is trying to protect a part of you that's never actually felt safe. Well, that's not politics, dear friends. That's psychology. And that's the whole point. Because hate, folks, hate's not a political issue. It just bleeds into politics. Hate is a human issue. Hate is a trauma response of a culture that's forgotten how to regulate, how to listen, how to hold tension without exploding everywhere. Every time we divide ourselves into us versus them, we're just reenacting an ancient fear with modern hashtags now, of course. So maybe the work isn't about winning the argument anymore. Maybe the rebellion we need, the uncomfortable act that we all need to get on board with, is learning to stay curious when our ego wants to fight. Maybe the cure for this cultural illness isn't louder opinions. Maybe it's quieter nervous systems. Because once you start to understand that hate is just fear that's been left alone for too long, you stop fighting people and you start healing systems that make people fight all the damn time. You stop arguing with strangers on the internet and start repairing the one person you actually have control over. You. Okay, let us move on to this episode's segments, starting with If Scars Could Talk. If scars could talk, they wouldn't sound like speeches. They would sound like Facebook comments at 2 o'clock in the morning that never should have been posted. They would sound like Thanksgiving dinners turned into nuclear verbal warfare. They would sound like quiet nights where somebody sat in their car too long because they didn't want to face another argument walking in the house. With each Scars Could Talk segment, if you haven't been here before, I read anonymous submissions from listeners of the show and readers of the book to try to get a good look into diverse experiences. The first one comes from a firefighter who writes, "We used to host cookouts every summer. Burgers, beer, loud music, kids running around the yard. After the pandemic in 2020, it all stopped. Half the family won't come half the family won't come if the other half is invited. My kids ask why Grandpa doesn't just visit anymore. I just tell them it's because he's busy. But the truth is, he blocked me on Facebook because I won't like the hate speech that he posts. Now I spend Christmas at the station. It's quieter there. This one comes from a mom who shared, I posted my daughter's first dance recital, and within the first 2 comments, I'm sorry, this is not funny, my uncle was yelling about how God doesn't approve of their outfits. My sister jumped in, and then 10 comments later, my daughter's picture had turned into a debate thread about immigration and tariffs. I since deleted the post. Now I don't even share anything. Even my happiest moments get hijacked before I can enjoy them. This next one comes from a Marine who writes, I did 2 tours overseas, came home, and the guys I grew up with won't even sit in the same bar together anymore. One wears a MAGA hat, one is a Democrat. Both of them used to be my brothers. They still are, but I feel like I survived war only to come back to one at home. He says it's clearly not the same, but there's enemies where there shouldn't be. There's enemies where there shouldn't be. Man. Okay, this person, I don't know anything about this person. My dad blocked me after I disagreed with comments he made about the state of our country. He sent me a new friend request the next day. So how about that? Families and sacred brotherhoods aren't even safe from political poison. In fact, in spirit of thank you folks for sharing your scars, I'm going to share one of mine. 2 of my closest friends who are very obviously on the complete opposite ends of the political spectrum. They don't even speak to each other anymore. Deleted from all social media, deleted from life, basically. And these people shared decades of friendship. I know that these 2 have been there for each other in some of their best and worst moments in their life. But now it's like it's all erased, like chalk on a blackboard, like it meant absolutely nothing because of their political views. It's funny how opinions have become more valuable than love. I would say that if scars could talk, they'd say this. Politics hasn't just split our country. It's split our tables. It's split our news feeds. It's split our friendships. The scars that we heard a minute ago, they whisper, you're no longer safe to be yourself. And carrying that every day is heavier than any freaking policy that any of us are fighting over right now. And we wonder why there are so many people who just prefer to stay silent, be quiet, not talk to anybody. Every time they speak, someone tells them that the words that are coming out of their mouth is wrong. Welcome to American politics. Now, let's move on to another segment. Let's do Why Life is Wild next. Life is wild in the context of politics because politics sneak into the dumbest places. I saw a lady post a picture of her dog in some kind of costume. I can't remember what the costume was. And I swear to you folks, on my life, the first comment on this picture of a dog was, cute, but Trump would have just bought him steak. He's a dog. Like he's a whole ass Doberman. He's not registered to vote. Okay? He ain't out here lobbying for gay rights. He's a fur-covered animal who eats shit out of the front yard and whose owner has the audacity to enjoy their pet and their life and post it on social media. But thumbs up to you, sir. You really showed that liberal that she is soft as tissue. Lord have mercy. Just this morning, I saw a TikTok of a guy very professionally discussing the situation that's been going on in Gaza the last several months or years at this point. And someone commented on it saying, well, Republicans are stupid. Really? All of them? Yeah, some of them need to be in a padded room, but all of them? That's a pretty bold generalization, isn't it? Even sports aren't safe anymore. You can't even just watch football anymore. You got to debate the anthem. You got to debate the flag. You got to debate the halftime show. We have to debate the halftime show. We debate the commercials. You remember when Super Bowl ads were just about beer and Doritos? That was it. Now it's about which corporation hates America the least. Who's pro-black and who's racist? Oh, and here's a good one. If an athlete takes a political stance, people lose their minds. They want you to shut up and dribble the basketball. The moment you say something they disagree with, all of a sudden you are no longer an American citizen or a human being like they are. Government policies don't affect you. Listen, I don't turn on my TV to hear your politics. I turn it on to watch you bounce a ball. I need you to be the good little puppet that I need you to be. This is how some people think, where someone else's life or their values aren't as important or valuable as your entertainment. That's why life is wild, especially with politics. You can't even scroll for 5 minutes without stepping on a virtual landmine. And we're all addicted to stepping on them. Every one of them. All right, let's do something different. What's next, Adam? Let's do the unwritten rules of humanity from a political standpoint. Unwritten rule number 1, don't talk politics at Thanksgiving. Translation, let's all silently clench while Dad's forehead vein looks like it's about to file for divorce. Sound familiar to anybody? Unwritten rule number 2, if you do talk politics, you must raise your voice to such a volume that the neighbor knows exactly what your stance on the topic is. That familiar? What's another one? When you run out of things to say, when you run out of facts, just start yelling random words. Socialism, freedom, woke, fascism. It's political uno. And the sources where we're getting most of this crap, Lord help us. Half of us are walking around quoting some guy on YouTube who has never opened a book. The other half are citing a Twitter thread by Hot Girl 1776, right? Neither one of those things is the Constitution, folks. Let's rewrite these rules, okay? New rule for number 1. If your argument begins with, I saw this guy on TikTok, stop it. You lose, period. Gavel down, court adjourned. My barber's niece has a TikTok. That doesn't mean that she understands foreign policy. Hell, some of my friends' dogs have Instagram accounts, but I don't count on them to inform me about the economy. Stop it. Check your sources, people. Rule 2, new rule for Rule 2. If your argument requires you to have screenshots or for you to caption something that says, hey, before this gets deleted, share it, you also lose. You're baiting people into something that doesn't deserve your energy or their energy. If you know that what you're doing is getting ready to cause a fight, you're looking for a fight. Maybe you should explore that. Maybe you should ask yourself why. You cannot proceed with your life without creating a new adversary. Let's do rule number 3. If you say, do your research, you should be legally required to cite actual research. Not your cousin's Facebook reel. I want you to show me the DOI. If you don't know what a DOI is, stop arguing with people. Okay? Because if you don't know what that is, you've never read a legitimate article from subject matter experts. If you're going to scream facts, you should probably know what a fact is. Okay? And you should probably learn how to separate it from what makes your ego get all nice and warm and fuzzy. Right? Being a human is not about winning. I'll say that again. This isn't a game, okay? There ain't a scoreboard here. You don't get a trophy because you colored in a circle on a ballot. Even if you did, who gives a shit? Instead, ask who should have been by my side on my deathbed, but wasn't, because we couldn't agree on reform. Being human is about staying connected. Being connected is more valuable than being correct. Every single time. Now, let's explore an unanswerable question. Here is the splinter for your brain today. What if being right matters less than being kind? Sit with that for a second. Take a look around. How many times has being right saved a marriage? Healed a family? Stopped Thanksgiving from ending in complete silence? What if kindness is the trophy? What if grace outranks certainty? What if your enemy isn't evil? What if they're just scared of a different direction? A direction that nothing in their life has guided them towards, but everything in your life has guided you towards that direction. And what if winning the argument cost you the very people that you swore you'd die for? But that's when you didn't know that. But of course, that's when you didn't know that they disagreed with you. And here's another uncomfortable side of that coin. All that might mean swallowing your pride, swallowing your ego. It might mean letting your cousin rant all over the place while you just nod and pass the gravy and pass the mashed potatoes. It might mean remembering that nobody gets thrown a freaking parade for being right. You just get arthritis in your thumbs from typing in all caps to show a bunch of strangers that you think you're smart and they're not. This isn't a riddle to solve, okay? It's an itch. It's an itch to live with, an itch to scratch. Scratch it. It's often where growth hides a lot. Let's do, what's the next one? Let's do Humanity 2.0 next. In this segment, again, if you're new here, this is where we kind of picture a new version of humanity, okay? Let's picture a political reset. Let's just picture a humanity reset, okay? No elephants, no donkeys. Well, we're going to keep the elephants and the donkeys, but you get what I mean. Republicans, Democrats. No hashtags, no divisive headlines all over the place. Just people. No kids that are born into tribal mentalities, okay? No family tree that's defined by bumper stickers. No red or blue deciding what tables you're welcome at and what tables you're not welcome at. What if job interviews didn't care about who you voted for? What if all they cared about is, can you show up on time and not be an asshole? What if your neighbor wasn't your enemy until proven otherwise, not just because the sign in their yard looks different than yours? And yeah, we do all that. We'd still argue. We're people. We're human. We're going to argue regardless. But maybe those arguments would actually frickin' get us somewhere, rather than keeping us on this hamster wheel of self-righteousness that we've become accustomed to. What if Humanity 2.0 had less tribalism and more table space? Less, which side are you on? And more, can you pass the rolls, please? Because now we're just grateful for the company, grateful for the people who we're sharing a meal with, instead of grateful for the opportunity to step on someone else's throat for your own benefit and tell them how right you are and how your politics is right and theirs is wrong. Now, we may never see this, and likely we'll never see this on a national scale. But you can try it at home. You can try it at work. You can try it in your group chat. Delete the rant, okay? Nobody cares how tough and smart and intelligent and perfect that you perceive yourself to be, okay? Nobody cares. Share a story instead. Stories enrich us. Stories save lives sometimes, man. Let your humanity hang out. Let it show. Who knows? Maybe a damaged relationship will survive the politics after all. Because real relationships, they are far more valuable to your mental health than the rant that you spent 30 minutes typing up on Facebook. And last but not least, let's do the stay segment and get out of here. We all got stuff to do. For a lot of people, this political climate is more than just mere arguments with loud banshees all over social media that ain't got nothing else better to do with their time. The political climate for some people has changed their entire existence on this earth, financially, socially, relationally, mentally, and for some, it's left them feeling as though they have been completely forgotten, forsaken, and left to rot beneath everybody else who, for some odd reason, deserve what they don't. These people over here, they can have something that I must not have the worth to measure up to that. You know how mentally dangerous that is for people? If this political climate has left you feeling hopeless, looking for a permanent way to drown out all this ridiculous noise that you didn't ask for. Now, it's hard, but stay. Stay even when your family stop reaching out. Stay when they stop calling. Stay even when your group chat exploded over some stupid-ass yard signs, okay? Stay even when your worth feels like it's been tied to a ballot box. It's not, by the way. You don't have to fix America to deserve rest. You don't have to prove that your suffering is valid to deserve help. You don't need to win the debate to stay alive. If you're listening right now, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're sitting in your car wondering if the world would even notice if you disappeared. Hear me say this. The world is different with you in it. Better with you in it. And maybe that very light within you is just what the world needs most right now. But your pain, your doubt, and your fear is getting in the way of that. It's creating this fog, right? So that you're having a hard time seeing all the things that you are, all the wonderful things that you are. Because there are people that you haven't met yet who would consider you an answered prayer. I think I've said this already in one of these shows. There are moments ahead of you that will knock the wind back into your lungs. There's a version of you waiting who doesn't need an ideology or a political party to be loved. So if you're listening to this today, I know it's hard, but just stay. All right, folks, that is episode number 5 of The Shift Show. We covered politics, power, and the mental health fallout that comes from all of it. I do, future thinking, want to steer this show away from politics as often as humanly possible because I don't like talking about it all that much. And also, that's why I wanted to get it the hell out of the way early so we can say, yeah, we talked about this stuff. Today, we roasted the political circus that is our country right now. We let some scars out to breathe a little bit. We rewrote some of the ridiculous political rules that we're all facing. We sat with a unanswerable question. We dreamed about a reset. We dreamed about humanity 2.0 and how things might look different and how we might all be experiencing a better place if we stop treating each other like garbage all the time. And hopefully we reminded each other to stay, despite everything that tries to convince us that we're better off going, right? The truth is, folks, that Washington, it may never change, right? But your kitchen table can change. Your conversations can change. Your group chats can change. Your cubicle, your bus ride to work can change. Your heart can change. And I personally have found that life and people and human beings and genuine connection is far more than politics. In fact, politics gets in the way of most of it. Okay? I want to thank each of you for sticking with me, joining me here on the Shift Show for episode number 5, and I hope to see you again next week. And then the next week, and then the next week, and then the next week. I hope to see you for the next 100 of these episodes. Be sure to tune in every week, hopefully every Tuesday when I get these videos out. We'll be on video on YouTube each week. We'll be on audio, YouTube Music, Spotify, Amazon Music, Audible. Still working on Apple. Don't know what's going on there. Follow me on socials. I'll put all the links in the descriptions or the comments, or they'll be somewhere. Check out the book if you haven't yet. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, follow, all that stuff that makes me feel nice and warm and validated in my little soul. But most importantly, to get this show in front of the people who need it the most. Again, thank you for joining me. This has been The Shift Show, episode number 5. I am your host, Adam Blevins. Come on back when the world gets too loud.